Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving deep today into some absolutely fascinating ancient texts, specifically excerpts from the Rig Veda. And we're zeroing in on hymns dedicated to two, well, incredibly powerful deities, Agni and Indra.
Right.
You've handed us this stack of material, and our mission, it seems pretty clear. Pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights, right from these specific sources.
Exactly.
Think of this as your shortcut, to getting well informed about how these ancient verses portray these really central figures. What were their roles? What did people ask them for? And honestly, what surprised us digging into these hymns?
Yeah, and it's important to stress we're working with a specific selection here. Hymns dedicated to Agni, numbers 4 through X in the collection we have, and then a good chunk for Indra, hymns S through X6.
Right.
So we're definitely not trying to cover the entire Rig Veda. I mean, that's massive. It's more about understanding the nature, the roles, the actions of Agni and Indra as these particular verses lay them out.
And that context is so crucial, isn't it? We have to keep in mind, these weren't just poems sitting on a shelf. These are hymns, very likely chanted, maybe sung, as part of ancient rituals, ceremonies.
Absolutely.
The sources mention things like oblations, sacrifices, offerings, especially that stuff called soma, which comes up a lot with Indra. So the language, the requests, the descriptions, they're all just steeped in that world of ritual practice and, well, belief.
That's a great point. The text isn't just describing gods in the abstract, it's showing us how people, actually interacted with them through ceremony.
Okay, so let's dive in. Let's start with Agni. Now, when we think Agni, we often jump straight to fire. But based on these sources, he's clearly way more than just a physical flame. What are some of the ways these hymns actually describe him?
Well, what really stands out immediately is just how multifaceted he is. These hymns, they give him a whole range of identities, really. He's called the guest of men, which sounds quite intimate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
He's literally found in houses of the living. He's a god among godly people, sure, but also given titles like Jatavedas, a name that suggests he's like the knower of all births or holds just immense knowledge.
Big guest idea is really striking. It puts the divine right there in the home. And he's described as a vital link, too, right?
Yeah.
The hymns call him a messenger of gods.
Yes, and an envoy friendly to mankind, passing between both races, meaning, between humans and the gods.
So the go-between.
Precisely. He's the crucial intermediary. And he's also central to the ritual itself. The leader of sacrifice, the invoker, the director. Other titles focus more on his appearance refulgent, shining brightly, full of burning beauty, but also his function, like cleanser and purifier.
I was also a bit surprised by some of the more abstract, maybe less obvious descriptions, like being called Son of Strength Kumara, I think.
Yeah.
Or even pure-tongued. It adds these layers beyond just, the visual of fire.
Yes, exactly. He's also called Paratha, which is an ancient title, and seen as benevolent with fair aspect, and described as deathless and keen of insight, someone who looks in all directions. It really paints this picture of a watchful, knowledgeable, vital force within the ritual space and, well, the human world, too.
So, okay, what does the text say about his actions and his nature, like how he behaves or connects to the world in these hymns?
Well, the sources tie him really closely to oil. They describe it as his habitation or proper province, which, makes sense, fire-consuming fuel.
Sure.
He's associated with sacred geography, worshipped at 3 high places at the center of the earth, apparently, and linked to the rhythm of ritual being decorated at ordered seasons.
And he seems key to actually getting the ceremony going. The sources say he starts the ritual, prepares the oblation, sometimes with help from Vanaspati, who's linked to plants, or with sacrificial post.
That's right. And his presence is really dynamic. The hymns describe him by his bright, delightful splendor, saying he waxes like growing boughs, renews his youth forever. But then they also vividly depict his destructive power.
Ah, the other side.
Yeah, he lights up forests, roars like water, consumes the broad earth, leaving these blackened lines as he burns through bushes.
There's that powerful kind of untamed aspect of fire. Yet the sources also talk about him as a source of boons, of gifts for the worshiper. He's asked to give us wealth with store of heroes, which means not just riches, but like strong sons or followers.
Right, brave men, capable sons, and also mighty strength in food and noble offspring. And through him, worshippers believe they can gain power, even overcome neighbors, subduing foemen.
So he's seen as this conduit for power and prosperity. And the text mentions his immense knowledge again. He holds all knowledge in his grasp, even as the felly rounds the wheel, like completely encompassing it.
Uh,
Now, one thing that really jumped out from these sources for me was this description that seems, well, almost contradictory. It
mhm.
mentions he can have a form of fury, but also possesses bridegroom's grace and lovely color. How does that work?
That is fascinating, isn't it? These hymns really portray Agni as both something beautiful and inviting when he's, well-kindled, someone you can approach, but also something utterly fearsome, maybe even untouchable when he's in his form of fury.
Okay.
It suggests he's not some simple static thing, but a really powerful force with different, maybe even unpredictable sides.
Right, because he's kindled by man upon the seat of worship, he makes his home in front of all things living, expanded through vital power. Yet there's that line about being touched when kindled, but not when all his form is fury.
hmm It really highlights the respect and perhaps even the caution needed when approaching such a potent deity. The sources also mention you can speak like Manu, the first man, sort of figure of law and ritual, with Agni as your envoy, again emphasizing that role as the divine go-between.
And he's linked to his origin too, born of wood plants.
Yes. And the text also notes his foresight keeps the law from violation, suggesting his wisdom helps maintain cosmic order.
Okay, so summing up Agni just for these specific hymns, he's absolutely essential to the ritual, bridging the human and divine realms. He's complex, intimate guest, knowledgeable guide, possessing this powerful duality of beauty and fury, and crucially, a source of wealth, strength, protection, and order.
That's a really solid picture based purely on these verses. Now, shall we turn to Indra? He's introduced right away as the chief god, the hero, the mighty one.
Indra feels like the ultimate cosmic force in these particular excerpts. I mean, the hymns attribute these foundational acts to him. He's the one who fixed fast and firm the earth that staggered, set at rest the agitated mountains, measured out the air's wide middle region, and even gave the heavens support.
Yeah, he's the establisher, the maintainer of cosmic order.
And he brings light. He gave being to the sun and morning, and even made the matchless lightnings of the sky. Just wow.
Absolutely. And perhaps his most famous role, certainly in these hymns that comes up again and again, is the dragon slayer, the liberator.
Right. The text goes into detail about him slaying the great dragon, known by names like Ahi or Vutra. And this being is described as concealed in depths, dwelling enveloped in waters, and crucially, the one who checked heaven and stayed floods.
Exactly. So, by defeating this cosmic obstacle, Indra dramatically freed the seven rivers, unleashing those vital, life-giving waters. That's a huge theme.
But his liberation work doesn't stop there, does it? He also drove the kind forth from the cave of Vala. So
Oh,
Vala is another obstructive force.
seems like it. Indra rent Vala, burst apart the bulwarks of the mountain, tore away their defenses. Sometimes, the hymns say, aided by the Angiases, who are these ancient priestly figures or maybe ancestors.
And he's credited with disclosing the like to late the Arya, while the Dasyu, often seen as enemies or indigenous peoples, were subdued, pushed aside.
He's definitely positioned as the champion for the worshiper against all sorts of adversaries. The hymns list so many foes he defeated. He slew many grievous sinners with his hurled weapon and chased away the humbled brood of demons.
And there are specifics too.
Oh, yeah, lots of specifics. Let's see. Sombrera with his 100 castles among mountains, Rohina scaling heaven, Nirmara, various Dasa or Dasyas, Arbuda cast down headlong, Drikas who driven off cattle, Urana with his 99 arms, plus others like Susna, Namuchi, Papru, even 100,000 of Arsene's sons.
It's quite the list. It really emphasizes his role as this relentless protector against chaos and opposition, both cosmic and, maybe human too.
Definitely. And the texts also describe his power over water in other ways. He made the mighty roaring flood flow upward, carried non-swimmers over. And then there's that really intriguing line about him crushing the car of Wusas, the dawn goddess.
Yeah, what's that about?
It says he was rending her slow steeds with rapid coursers. Perhaps it's an assertion of his supreme power, even over the natural cycles of the sky, or maybe a myth we only get fragments of here.
Okay, so he's the cosmic architect, the liberator, the mighty warrior. How do these hymns connect Indra specifically to human concerns? What were people actually asking him for?
Well, he's explicitly called the protector of gods and men. He's depicted as the one who inspires and empowers the poor lowly priest suppliant. And there's that very clear connection, which you mentioned earlier, to the Soma ritual. He favors him who presses Soma.
Which makes total sense given how central Soma seems to be to him in these verses. But what about tangible help? What did people want?
Pretty much everything essential for that time. He controls key resources: horses, chariots, villages, cattle, and the hymns show people relying on him directly in conflict. He's invoked by two armies, stronger and weaker, each for himself.
So, like, both sides are praying to him.
Apparently so. And the text doesn't mince words. Without his help, people never conquer. He gives succor in battle, but interestingly, pardons not who provokes him. So you want him on your side.
Definitely. And what do people seek most? Is it just victory?
Victory, yes, but also wealth and prosperity are huge. He's the one who gives wealth, treasures, riches, described really vividly too, like a gambler gathering his winnings or aggressively seizing foes' riches, taking wealth from riverbanks.
Wow.
And beyond wealth, they ask for strength, noble offspring, habitation, friend, and even the company of Marutzvayus, those powerful storm deities who sometimes ride with him.
The sources even give specific examples, don't they? People he actually helped, like Treta and Dabidi, who was made rich and kept safe.
Yeah, Turvidi, whose floods he held still, Vaya, whose river he made easy to cross, and outcasts he supposedly raised up, even the halt and blind to whom he gave fame and who then stood erect beheld.
Those personal stories make it very concrete. His power isn't just cosmic. It touches individual lives, individual misfortunes.
Exactly, which brings us really right back to that relationship with Soma, because as you said, it's absolutely foundational to Indra in these hymns.
Right. The text describes Soma's origins. The season is Soma's parent. It grows in floods. And the milk of the plant stock is chief for lives. And Indra is just the primary consumer. The sources mention specific times he drinks it, like Trikadrukas.
And the effect is described as, well, dramatic. The juices make him joyful, fill his flanks, swell his vigor, satisfy him. The hymns directly link his power, his greatest deeds, to Soma. He slew the dragon in its rapture, meaning in the ecstasy or power given by
So
Soma.
Soma enables his heroism.
Pretty much. His cosmic actions are performed in Soma's rapture. The text even says the Soma is within him. It's part of him when he's empowered.
And he clearly craves it. He's described as someone who longs to drink it, deserves a draft. And the ritual is all about providing it. He's served by ministers, these Advarius, who press it with stones and pour libation.
The hymns state flat out that prayer and pouring Soma exalts him. He even delights in streams where Soma is found, reinforcing that connection.
And here's the link back to human desire again.
Exactly. The hymns show him asking for wealth in return for lauding him and offering Soma. He directly aids the Soma pourer and brewer. So Soma is depicted not just as a drink, but as the very fuel for his divine power. It makes him strong enough to do his deeds and, crucially, makes him receptive to human prayers and offerings.
Okay, so pulling all this together from these specific sources, Agni is this vital fire messenger, Indra as the cosmic hero fueled by Soma. What does this picture tell us about the relationship between human action, like ritual, and divine response in this ancient context?
Well, it paints a very clear picture of a world where divine power is seen as real, accessible, and directly influenced by human behavior, particularly through ritual. The hymns describe human actions performing sacrifices, offering oil to Agni, pressing and pouring Soma for Indra, chanting praises, and then they detail the expected divine responses: protection, victory, strength, fertile offspring, and yeah, above all, wealth.
It feels quite reciprocal, maybe even transactional. The sheer detail in describing the gods' actions and attributes, it doesn't feel like just flowery language. It seems designed to reinforce their power and their capacity to actually deliver on the things being asked for.
I think that's right. It justifies the human effort, the resources poured into these rituals. It highlights a worldview where maintaining cosmic order, maintaining social order, achieving prosperity, overcoming enemies, these weren't just matters of human effort alone. They required actively engaging with these powerful divine forces through specific, detailed ritual practices.
And the desires expressed are so fundamental, aren't they?
Yeah.
Wealth, strong sons, victory, basic human aspirations projected onto and sought from the most powerful beings in their cosmology.
Absolutely.
And just to be crystal clear for everyone listening, throughout this deep dive, we are strictly focusing on relaying and understanding the content as it's presented in these specific excerpts from the Rig Veda. We're not making claims about historical accuracy or endorsing any specific beliefs ourselves. We're just trying to understand what your source material communicates about these deities and the world of the people who compose these hymns.
Precisely. Our goal is just to be your guide to what's actually in these fascinating verses.
So what does this all mean when we zoom out just a little? In these hymns, we encounter Agni, not simply as fire, but as this vital, complex, accessible link between worlds, deeply embedded in the home and the ritual. And then Indra emerges as the supreme cosmic force, the one who orders the universe, defeats chaos, and brings very tangible benefits, victory, wealth to humans, clearly powered and influenced by the potent Soma ritual.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how these ancient verses weave together observations of natural phenomena, meticulous ritual action, and these really fundamental human desires into such a rich and dynamic tapestry of belief. It offers this powerful window into an ancient worldview straight from the source, which raises an important question for us to consider, maybe for you to think about too. Given the vivid detail, the emphasis on specific divine actions tied so closely to human requests, and the clear importance of offerings like Soma, what might these hymns suggest about the underlying nature of the relationship between humanity and the divine in this ancient context? Was it primarily an act of humble reverence, or perhaps something more akin to a powerful, maybe even contractual exchange, something to think about as you reflect on these ancient words?